Hey, it's your host, Rick Houston. Some of the most popular videos we've ever posted here on the Scene Vault Podcast YouTube channel concern taking full advantage of the NASCAR rulebook, or gaining a competitive advantage, or, if you want to get right down to it, flat out good old fashioned cheating. So I've put together a best of compilation for you: cheating in NASCAR. But before we get down to business, how about hitting those subscribe, like, and notification buttons? And tell us what you think in the comment section. What is your favorite NASCAR rule bender?
I don't know though. They used to have scores. Remember, they didn't have the lines going across the transponders.
Did Bertha have a lot of fuel line in it?
Yeah, one time. For some reason, how we got caught.
We need details on Bertha.
That's the one. I noticed that you didn't answer my question.
Yeah.
What made that car special?
There was a lot of cheating shit on it. Am I allowed to say that? I never forget. We sold that
that's
car.
That's not the car that had the nitrous in it. That's your Talladega car.
That was a Daytona. Yeah, that was a Daytona car.
That was a different car. Bertha didn't have nitrous.
Yeah.
So I got the truth out right there.
With that car, everybody, there was three cars that qualified about half a second faster than anybody else at Daytona, and this was 1974, 75.
Mm-hmm.
It was A.J. Foyt's car, Harry Hyde's car, Marcus was in it, I think. A.J. was in Hutch's car, and our car, the Gatorade car. We happened to be third, and Ramo Stott was fourth. So they took the first four, and they caught A.J. and Hutch right away. They had it in the door panel. Nitrous, you got to have a bottle and a solenoid.
Mm-hmm.
They caught his right away. Harry's was a good deal. He had his in the radiator, big, thick radiator, which everybody blocks it off.
Everybody run a big radiator.
Yeah, big, thick radiator. Well, the bottle was in the radiator, and then after qualifying, everybody's changing their motors and
change
radiators, put the race radiator. Nobody knew it, but they caught him with wherever the line was going into the manifold. They checked that. Well, they didn't. They couldn't catch ours. We had to give it up.
Tell them where it was.
Was on the bar going down the deal. I got some hydraulic tubing, and the row bar, Darrell could reach over and turn the valve. It had a little, like a off and on, one of them lever valves.
Yeah. He
could reach the row bar pad and covered that, and he could reach over and turn it. Now it went to the
intake.
It didn't go to the intake, because I didn't want no
went to the
lines
air
showing.
filter, didn't it?
Went to the air filter underneath. We cut the air filter out with a throttle linkage, like it had to be cut out to clear. And the water temperature gauge, I didn't do all this. Down in Savannah, Gulfstream was down there, and they had the most modern technology in them. Remember them guys used to come over to the shop?
Yeah.
They had the most modern technology. She said, I would talk to him about making something. And he said, I could make something. So we took the water temperature line that come out of the firewall, and it went down in the intake. We put a slit in it. And this guy made the switch, the gauge itself. He had a micro switch in it, and all you did was reach the dash and turn the front part of the gauge, and it would kick that. Open the throttle, it would kick that solenoid on in that row bar and the gas too, and shoot
right
into the air cleaner underneath, and they never did catch it. And finally they made it so hard of us after Sunday's qualifying, we never got on the track. They made us tear that car all apart in the evenings at night after the 5 to 10 and throw us out. Then we come in the next morning and had to put it all back together. And by that time, practice was over. Now, this was Wednesday. Bill France Jr. come, and he said, David, we know you got it. Where's it at? If you want to race Sunday, you better be telling us. Bill Gardner, he comes to me, can they find it? I said, it's been 3 days. They ain't found it yet. And he said, I'm going to sue them. And I said,
You're
no. I
win.
said, yeah, I said, that's the worst thing ever. Do you ever want to race again?
Yeah.
I told him, I said, you want to race again?
They own the basketball.
That's right. And I said, just let them have it. He said, well, what are they going to find? I said, they didn't find people back then. They just slapped your hand and made it hard on you.
Put it
Well,
in the right way.
I told him where that. Even Bill France said, that's the most genius thing I've ever seen in my life.
But didn't Darrell have one on him?
That was later.
Now, did you get fined?
No.
So really, they just confiscated it.
They just confiscated everything, and
They
we
just
had to
took
put,
stuff back in. All they did was take it from you.
Just took it like the fuel cell, that big fuel cell
Yeah.
we had,
Oh, God.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Now, how prevalent was nitrous in the garage?
Oh,
It sounds like everybody had it.
you remember
Well,
when
DK had it. You've heard how many times he had it just so he could get in the
get
race.
in the race?
Yeah.
If you ever, and engine men would know this, you could be running a motor on a dyno and just take the bottle and hold it here to that, right there, the carburetor, and that you'd see them RPMs go up and the horsepower go up. That's how, it's cooling the fuel. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's cooling the fuel, nitrous oxide. The drag racers use it all the time and everything.
And it was only for qualifying. Nobody really raced.
Because you couldn't put a big enough bottle in there to.
Yeah, it was just for
a
qualifying.
bottle would last. That pipe, we figured it out. It lasts like 30 seconds, 32 seconds, because we tested it. That row bar deal down there. Well, the lap was 50, 49,
40-something
49, 48, something back then. Well, it helped you when you went by the start-finish line. You could do all that in that little short chute. And then you had it going down that back straightaway. And that's where NASCAR was smart, because they clocked everybody's speed down that
Well, they
back.
clocked you from corner to corner in the flat, so they had everybody's straightaway speeds from this line to this line, and somebody's 4/10 quicker
Yeah,
going
down
down there.
that, 3 cars were like 4/10, 5/10 quicker down that back straightaway.
We picked up 7/10 at Daytona once.
Yeah.
8/10 in
Well,
one
now they
lap.
just say it was arrow.
Huh?
Now they just say it's arrow.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
when you triggered it, did they trigger the whole
The whole bottom.
supply, or could you
the whole
turn it on
supply
and
was
off?
out. It was gone.
Okay.
Once you was done qualifying, it was
They
gone.
couldn't sniff it any after that.
Yeah.
It was gone.
So you couldn't just squirt a little bit
No.
and
You
then
could-
squirt. Okay.
You could if you had a switch, but I mean, even the drag racers right now, when they turn it on, it's on. It's gone.
Yeah.
Then they reload with new bottles.
If you try to have a switch, they are going to catch you. You just have a
They'll
lever to
catch
turn
you.
it on, and that's it.
And that's how they caught Harry Hyde and Hutch. They
Mm-hmm.
had the lines going into the manifold. You know what I mean? It's
Too obvious.
too obvious. You got two. What do you got going in the manifold? Heat temperature line, and that's it.
Yeah.
The oil line comes off the block to check the oil pressure.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. And let me tell you, with
This
Kodak
was just
car,
basically vapor.
yeah, vapor. The Kodak car sat on the pole a lot down
Well,
there.
they had a lot in their rear end housing.
Yep.
And they pumped it from the rear end housing.
And
the four car.
went through the pump, the rear end pump.
Yeah, through the pump.
Now you're talking about in the Sterling Marlin Runt Pit.
And,
And
Ernie
Ernie Irvin
days
days.
and all that.
Remember when they run so
shocked.
good at Daytona and Talladega?
When Sterling and Ernie could pull out and pass 4 cars, toward the and if you watch the races, he never done it till the end of the race.
That's always been the story around town, and I know we got a guy here that works with me here, and he worked on that 4 car, so he's pretty much.
One time,
I went up there and
right.
worked when Bobby Hamilton was there.
one time
Now I want to get back to the DW having the nitrous on him in his suit.
He didn't have the bottle on him. He had the hook up on him.
Okay.
Now how did that work?
Well, he had the stuff on his uniform, and you could hook it up. You know what I mean? Like a quick coupler.
Yeah.
And it was the same deal. We had it in a different bar, though.
Yeah.
But,
I always thought, I remember you tell, in one of them private conversations,
Yeah.
you tell me he had it on him. So I remember that.
was it
He didn't
rubbed
have the bottle. Well, it had he had everything on him, the solenoid and everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All he had to do was plug it into the bar.
Yeah, he just plugged in. So he had the bottle. He had the bottle
Was
on
it
him.
Rudd?
But we only
Now who had the bottle on him?
That was Darrell. I thought he had the bottle or
honestly,
under his uniform or something.
We tried that. but hell, you could, you had to have, what it was, we done that a couple times. It was a little thin, but you didn't have enough to get you
enough to sniff.
to Flagnan you was out. You got to have a bottle. There's so much, and the size of the orifices too. I haven't done this shit in a long time, this nitrous stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the best
They're not doing it now.
qualifying cheating thing I ever seen in my life, and we never done it. I'll take that back. We did a couple times. But these guys at Gulfstream was down there. Cale Yarborough come to drive for us. And back when you went testing
It's in the 27 car.
in the 27 car, Valvoline car, when you went testing, you would take and put your beam across the racetrack, and they didn't have no computers that show all the times and everything. You would put your light across, and then you would test and do changes, and that light would do the time.
Yep.
And it would print it out. The data acquisition, what they called it back then. You had more shit on the car.
But stopwatches with your thumbs were just not accurate enough.
Weren't accurate.
Everybody
enough,
had
but they were
quick
pretty
fingers.
damn close.
Yeah.
We used to sit on pit wall and bet who would be the
Oh,
closest
yeah.
when
Yeah.
they announced it for $1.
Yeah.
Herb Knapp, Bud Moore, Jake, Harry Hyde, all of us would sit there qualifying, and
See if
whoever
he'd be closest.
got the pot. Every car. So, I mean, if you was good, you could make about $10, $15,
So what'd they do on this?
Well, I told him, I said, this guy from Gulfstream, he was a engineer, some big
Yeah.
John. He'd come by the shop all the time. We got to be pretty good friends with him. And he said, what breaks that beam? Where's the beam at? And I said, well, you got this, there's a light beam. I guess you can't see it, but watch. And we said it, and I said, you move it. And he said, what breaks that beam? I said, when the car hits it. The car hits it, it breaks the beam. Never heard no more. And about a week later, he comes to me, he says, you want to break that beam before the car gets there? And I said, how the hell are you going to do that? And he said, I'm going to work. Will you do it? And I said, yeah, if I can't, walk out there and break it, you could put your hand in front of it and break the beam. He took a camera and put a thing in a camera. I don't know what the hell it was. And you could stand back on pit wall and aim it toward the beam on that side. NASCAR had it for qualifying. They had the same rig.
Come back in your spot.
They had it for qualifying, the same rig. He would take that camera when we went and tested, and when Cale was probably 30 yards, 40 yards ahead of that, he hit it, and it break that beam and give you a tenth, 2/10 quicker.
Which is 2 football fields at Daytona.
Yep, today. And we got, the only guys that knew about it was me, Pete Peterson,
Yeah.
and Ducky Newman.
I didn't know about that one.
No, you didn't know about
I
it.
was-
Barry didn't know about it.
Yeah, I was just a kid hanging out then.
No, nobody knew about it. Barry or Toucan or none
Did
of
Cale
them.
know about it?
No, Cale didn't
Yeah,
know
you
about
couldn't
it
tell
either.
Cale.
We was going to use it at Rockingham, and Ducky, he's going to take a picture like he's taking a picture. He was so nervous.
That's Ducky Newman, the engine
The
builder.
engine builder. He was so nervous. He never clicked the damn. He never clicked it. And we happened to sit on the pole anyway.
Yeah.
We didn't need it, but
Yeah, smoked him at Rockingham that day.
yeah, we in the Brook of Valve Spring or
Yeah,
something. Remember?
it was wearing them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ducky was, you'd go in the engine shop and Ducky he'd just have a head up there sighting it,
Yeah.
That's how hands-on he was with,
And
with
we
engine.
only had, back now they got 20 guys. What, they had Ducky and Lula Rosa.
Yeah.
So the next year, that's when I became the full-time weekend guy doing the tires, when you left and Tim Brewer was there, and we went to Talladega. And we slotted the spoiler on the back of Cale's car. It's a 27 Valvoline, prettiest car I've ever worked on. But you put a big, on the spoiler, a big piece of metal across the back. Well, everybody slotted their spoiler.
In the middle.
Yeah, and then you
'Cause
made
the
big
trunk lid
washers
went and you had
in a
that.
truck lid, and you had a 4.5-inch spoiler. So we slotted the spoiler and made our own washers. You couldn't buy them as big as the slot was. Well, we went through inspection, and they measured spoiler, 4.5 inches. We're going to the gas pumps. Me and Barry and Ed Thratt and Pete, we're pushing the car. Pete's driving it, and we're pushing. We're all got 1/4-inch drive ratchets, and we're undoing that spoiler and
pushing that
sliding it
spoiler
up.
down.
So we got a whole nother inch of spoiler on that car. And before we get to the gas pumps, Gazaway, the younger one, come over. He said, "Stop that car." Joe said, "Stop that car." And we stopped. He said, "Take one of them bolts out of the back of that spoiler right there." Well, I happen to have a 1/4-inch drive wrench. Here's everybody coming by laughing, pointing fingers. We took a bolt out. I took it out. Just what I thought. He saw the slot.
Somebody.
So I was this 18-year-old kid, and on the team, he looked at me. He said, "Boy, you go get me a drill and 3/16 drill bit and some extension cords and pop rivets, and you get back here now." Man, I took off running, and everybody's laughing at us, and we think the petties told on us. That's what they said. So we drilled that back of that car full of, and pop rivets all in.
Where
it.
you couldn't move it.
You couldn't move it.
Yeah.
He said, "If y'all ever do this again, none of you will race. You got that, Brewer? You got that, Thrap? You know?" "Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Gasaway." So we go on the gas pumps, put that car on the line. Bad thing is, they never remeasured it. We brought it in, we had 5.5 inches of spoiler.
It was still down where they put it down.
We raced with 5.5 inches of spoiler. They never.
I'm just glad I'm not a cheater like y'all do.
I don't believe that for 1 minute. I worked with you,
I
Pete.
cannot believe.
Not according to the podcast you were on, Bub.
And well, I learned a lot from one certain guy I worked for.
Jake.
Junior.
All of them.
Junior.
Dale.
Dale Inman. Dale never, he called it stretching the rules.
But you talk about Dale.
We didn't
Redman.
call it cheating. Nobody called
If
it cheating.
No.
Like you said, somebody squealed on you or with that.
Yeah.
If I seen something, I didn't have to
We
go.
did it ourselves. We would do it. We wouldn't tell on nobody.
No. But if I wanted I seen something on another car that I wanted to know that it was wrong, all I had to do was go tell Jake Elder or Dale Edmond.
Yeah, Dale Inman.
Dale Edmond, I'd tell him first, and you could walk away and everything, and you could watch him. It'd be 5 minutes. There he goes in NASCAR trailer.
Yeah.
He going over there to tell. You know what Harry Hyde's doing?
You know, when Darrell won the first Winston All-Star and hand grenaded the motor right after the line, Dale Inman walked by me and grabbed my arm. He said, "Go tell him to check the gas cans. Go tell him to check the gas cans." You know, I'm like, what's he telling me this for? You know, you know.
But you know, it was working for Dale. He never did really do any of the
Obvious.
Yeah.
He never would do the obvious stuff. But he
was too busy
We did-
pinching everybody's arm.
But we
my
did
goodness.
10 obvious things so they would catch them, so we could get by with the thing
Yeah.
that we wanted to get
you
by
were
with.
the worst though. From you and Brewer. And I forgot who else. Maybe Barry.
I'd have rather cheated and won the race than go legal and
Then
won the
don't
race.
do nothing. Then don't do anything and run 12. Yeah.
Jake is our crew chief. We'll
Here's
go
the
to
deal.
Texas.
Everybody was doing it against you.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
That car we won with, Rick's funny story, we had pushed the rules quite a bit, and we had painted the chassis black. It was a night race, so we painted chassis black. And after we won the race, we're in teardown, and the inspectors are like, "We need a flashlight. We can't see under here." And all my guys were like, "Well, here's a flashlight. We could turn the batteries upside down so they wouldn't so the flashlights wouldn't work." So they're trying to inspect the car at night, and the chassis is pitch black, so you can't see nothing, right? So they were pissed that we had painted the chassis black because, like I said, we had pushed some rules and made it very, very hard for them to measure those rules and police things after the race. The following Tuesday, NASCAR sent a rule bulletin out. All cars must be light colored in appearing.
Really?
Yeah. So that's what people always say. You got a reputation of being a cheater, and to me, like I told you earlier, it's not cheating. You're looking for a performance advantage, right? So we had figured out that if we painted this car black and pushed some rules, it'd be really hard to identify some of those things. So we worked in the nature of the rule book, right? It didn't say what color you had to paint your chassis. We just did a lot of things like that. I don't know. I'm weird, I guess, but I always had a rule book no matter where I went. If I was on an airplane, I was reading a rule book. If I was sitting on a toilet, I was always reading a rule book. I mean, whatever it be, I was always trying to find a way. Like, this is the rule book that we live by. And then I've always trying to find things to work on, right? Because I had the mentality that if I'm not working on something, somebody else is, right? So I've always tried to push my guys to be Yankee ingenuity, right? Just work hard, work smart, and go home, right? But always try to find the advantage. So I never considered it cheating unless it was something blatant. But if you worked around the rule book that it wasn't in the rule book and you found an area to work in, we went to work in that area, right? And then if you got caught and they wrote a rule book, changed the rule and wrote a rule about that part, then you know you did your job, right? So there was stuff that I did that was blatant in my career that I've gotten caught for. Looking back at it, it was totally stupid. But at the time, you get caught up in the moment and you do things because performance, you wear the target on your back as a crew chief. And you have to perform. So sometimes you make decisions that are outside the box, and sometimes you pay the price. And unfortunately, there was one time with Paul Menard, I paid the price heavily for something we did that was blatant and should have never happened. But again, I'm responsible, and I made that decision to go ahead and do that. But there's a lot of things that I bet you there's probably 60, 80 things in the rule book that are written because of the stuff that me and my people, we went to work and worked hard and figured out ways to do things. So
60 to 80 things.
Probably, yeah. In my career, there's a lot of things that we did that hey, don't bring that back, and then next week there's a bulletin in the rule book that things have gotten changed. So, I mean that's the world I lived in, and it goes back to the crew chiefs that I worked with. They were always like everyone was different. Like we talked about Birdie and his specialty, and D Hart and others, and 1992, I was fortunate in Daytona when I worked with Birdie. We went to visit Smokey Unit shop in Daytona. One of the guys that worked on Birdie's team the year before had quit Birdie's team, and he went to work for Smokey Unit working in the shop. Well, he invited us all there. And, man, there's so many things in that building that we saw that people don't know about, And the guy had a mind that was remarkable and so creative. And I certainly don't. I'll never live up to Smokey by no means, but I just learned a lot that day. Like, here's the rule book, go to work and figure it out and try to find a performance advantage. And that's the way when I became a crew chief that I just tried to be, use ingenuity to be creative and come up with a better part. And I just pushed my people to do that. And some people think it's called cheating. But like I said, I'm always going to call it performance advantage because that's what I truly believe. Just like today and with a Gen 7 car, right? We have pages and pages of documents of how to build your race car, but they're still seeing crew chiefs suspended. They're still pushing the rules of basically a homologated race car of how to put it together. You get a 68-page document of how to build a race car. And if you don't use one nut and washer properly, you get in trouble, So I try to be different than everybody. I spend a lot of time reading rule books and trying to find my way around it to be creative. So some people like that, some didn't. But, man, we come up with some pretty cool shit in a day.
Is there one that you would like to have back that you would say, okay, that was over the line? You mentioned Paul Menard.
Yeah.
Is the one that you would like to have back?
Probably that one with Paul. We had finished third at Michigan that day, and NASCAR took our car back to the tech center as a random. And
did you know that you were?
No, did not know
in
until after
trouble?
the race. Did not know until after the race, and we had a hard time getting through inspection. Basically, we had molested a frame rail. I mean, it's out there in social media. You can find it. But we had molested a frame rail, and at the time, NASCAR had a gauge that went in the right side door of the car that would measure front wheel offset to right rear offset, and they measured a lot of parameters. And we had molested the frame rail. We had a tool that went up in the frame rail and kind of spread the frame rail out to maximize the number. And that was a bad decision on my part. And when my guys had got to the tech center, NASCAR had cut the door off the right side of the race car, so they knew something was up. And when we got there, I wasn't there. My guys had went to do the teardown, and my phone rang. Craig Smokestad, my crew chief, called me up, and he says, hey, Darby wants you up here. And I said, well, I ain't coming. He goes, no, you need to get your ass up here now. And I was in welcome, and I knew exactly what it was. And I walked in, and Darby had a cigarette in his mouth. He goes, what's this? And I said, you got me. I it's my fault. And then 4-week suspension, 125 grand later, here we are. So
Wow.
yeah, but you live and learn, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes when you push the rules for performance advantages, sometimes you feel invincible and you do stupid stuff. And that is one thing that totally over the line. And, I let Richard down. I let Paul down. I let John Menard down. Let a lot of our sponsors down because it was a bad decision and they got a lot of bad ink out of it. And it hurt me as well.
So when you got selected as a random car, did you know that you were in trouble then? Were you like, oh,
I didn't think they would.
Oh no.
No, because NASCAR takes randoms.
Right,
It wasn't like it was something out of the blue. I mean, we just happened to go that time, and yeah, I don't know. I still think that from the time the car got loaded up to the time we got tech center, I think somebody had told them what was going on. But that's just my opinion. But we got there and got caught with our pants down.
Nobody would ever tattle in NASCAR.
No, and that's the thing that sucks, is some people would rather take the easy way out and just go to the official and say, hey, what about this, this, and this? Is it legal? Where some people would roll their sleeves up and go to work and figure it out. And I was one of those people that just, if I saw something, I went to work, try to figure it out, and try to join you.
Yeah.
So.
So don't shoot the messenger. I'm just going to ask. There was a lot of talk after he came on board, after y'all hit the light switch. Oh, they got traction control. I've heard that you guys had trick shocks. What did go on that year?
Okay.
What did make that car so good?
Okay, now the traction control, I did want it.
Yeah.
And we did do a lot of testing with it with Fred Wanke at USA Speedway. Remember Lakeland, Florida?
Yeah.
We went down there and spent a ton. Brought that guy who built them, brought him down there, put him in a room.
Really?
Yes. We spent, because we knew it was out there.
Yeah.
Greg Biffle wrecked at Nazareth and about killed him. It was in a Busch car.
The Purvis wreck?
Greg Biffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Greg's the one that hit Jeff.
It might have been. I mean, it destroyed cars.
Yeah,
it like rung his bell. Greg Biffle's a pretty tough old dude. And, of course, we were over there looking at his car because we're just kind of interested in how bad it tore up the race car. Well, we seen one hanging underneath the dash. So I left there and I told Ed Renzi, and I said, go over, I'm going to show you. He said, come over, look at this car or whatever. He's, I don't care. And I was like, come look at this car. So I showed him, and I kind of looked, I said, look underneath the dash, look what that is. Because the damn green light's still blinking. Where it still had the power. I was like, tell me they're not running it.
Yeah.
He's like, is that what that is? I said, that's what we went and tested.
Yeah.
I wanted to test it. Fred was scared to death of it. Harold made a deal with me. Said, I tell you what, if we can't beat them, he said, just give me 1 year. If we can't beat them without it, we'll start running it. He said, because I can hide it. I was like, okay, deal. I didn't need it. Now, what we did have, we had the springs, because we had the springs where we could rotate them and turn them into heavier springs, softer springs. And the shock stuff, we did have a pin in there where it would just hold them down.
Okay.
So, but a lot of it was last year's tricks. We went back to. Remember the wicker bill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember all the driver safety and all that stuff they started coming out with? I think you had the headrest and you had this one piece that went and it hooked to the dash. Then it went up to the bar. So we put all that stuff in and put the cover over that to keep the driver safe or whatever. Well, in the middle of that was, I can't remember, it was the name of the company. We took and cut it with a razor blade, put a round metal hook that's hooked to the wicker bill up top. So during the parade laps, I would pop that thing loose, unhook it from the dash, and put it underneath there, and pull it down, and I could see my roof do this. And we would fly. And it never failed. It never failed. That was the one time if I could have got to him, and because at the time Junior was dominating the restrictor plate, and I was like, oh, his ass is so kicked today, because I would push him and send him, and just send him, and they were even talking about on the radio like, good God, how fast is it? And I was like, oh, we got caught up in a dang wreck there. I think we were all running
you're still talking about the Busch car.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
With Harold.
Yeah, with Harold. So, I mean, we had our tricks. We had our, but also, too, I'm going to tell you this, too. We could do things that most people really couldn't because we were the very first to dip our toe in this pond. And what I mean by that is, at the time, the media is really helping us out because they are starting to hear some of this rumbling about, okay, this is getting kind of crazy. You got 13 cup guys here, and they're beating all the bush guys. You're taking food away from them, blah, blah, blah. So I remember in a driver's meeting they were talking about it, and they said, if you need to fix it. Do what you needed to fix it. So Harold was like, we'll fix it. We'll show up next week, Kentucky. So we'll show up next week, and we'll fix it. He said, let's see. And Ed Renzi said, you know what? It's only a fine. What are they going to do?
Wow.
So then we were really pushing the issue because we were rolling across the scales, and the nose was like, I was like, oh, this is going to be big. This is going to be. I even told her, I said, get the trophy, put it in the bus, and tell them to get gone. That way they ain't going to take the trophy away. I knew they could take the money, but they ain't going to take my trophy. So that's how bad it was. And we rode across scales. All right, see y'all boys next week. And everybody was like, okay, we'll see you. Come back next week. It was just pinned down. I mean, we just kept getting more aggressive and more aggressive and more aggressive because, and I think it helped us. When y'all started putting stuff in those papers about, hey, it's getting ridiculous because they would have 12 or 13 of those guys. Like Charlotte was awful, Daytona was awful, and so we were ready for them.
So again, I helped you get out of your Carroll deal.
I don't remember.
Now I'm helping you out on the. Okay, I see.
I said media. I didn't say you. Yeah.
We'll go back up there. And Terry was leading the race. We'd come up with a deal where we could kill a cylinder. It was like traction control back in. But we could kill the cylinder coming off the corner, and when he got off the button, it would pick up all 8 cylinders. But
now that wasn't legal.
No, it wasn't legal. Y'all said when I come in here to talk to y'all, I can tell some stories. Well, I'm telling a story. So
I'm shocked.
So we are actually leading the race, and there's 50-some laps to go. John Andretti's been on our way all day. We outrun Darrell and everybody with the little trick we had. And lo and behold, caution come out. Well, when the caution come out, the little trick we had quit. So we had all 8 cylinders. I think that's the way it was. No, we just had 7 cylinders. It had killed that one cylinder completely. So we had to come in and got 4 tires. Went back out third. And when they threw the green, everybody else had new tires. We had new tires, but we couldn't run because we didn't have 8 cylinders. We finished 6th that day. And we had spent a fortune and had worked our butts off to try to win that race, and that happened. And me and Terry, I know we'll forget, we talked about team cars, and we let it have it about that. But that was, what we tried to do toward the end of the year, was try to win a race for them.
By any means necessary. By any means
any means necessary, we was going to win a race with Billy. And I don't think they would have caught what we had at that time. It was different. Yeah. I don't think they'd have caught it.
All right. So 1978 Southern 500. You get in a pretty bad accident with Grant Adcox.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the accident itself? Because it was a pretty substantial, serious accident.
I mean, I got killed and lived through it. I remember that they did stuff on the. I don't remember it, but my people were there, and they had me on the ground outside the car, trying to get me some pulse going, and I know that. I know it was a bad deal. What I remember about it is I was doing good. I was not a lap down yet. I don't remember when it happened on the racetrack. David Pearson was behind me, and I'm seeing him coming, and I see Grant started to spin, and it's real narrow, always been, still is, but he went up the track backwards, and I thought, and I'm almost on him right then, and I said, I'm just going to go below. I can get between him. David's coming. I don't want him to pass me, and he came right back down. Grant came right back down the thing, and I popped him nearly full speed.
Yeah.
And in the video, you can see it on the video if you got one of those from '78. I've seen it. It just was a sudden stop.
Yeah.
And it got my attention. But that's what I remember about it happening. But I remember waking up in the hospital, and Grant was in there with me, and he looked just the opposite of me. I had bruises all the way down the right side of me, my right leg, body, everywhere was my right side, and everything on his left side was
Really?
We looked like the opposite twins in there, and went. We all survived it.
You talked about getting some attention. From that point, how did you find out about what NASCAR had found on the car? They discovered a nitrous oxide bottle. How did you find out that they had found something?
Bill Gasaway called me in the hospital.
In the hospital.
And that was probably 2 days later. And if you remember Bill Gasaway, he was like, he wanted to be like Billy France. I mean, he was very in charge. And when he said it, it was cast in stone. And he just called me up and he said that the car had been broken in half in front, and the line was showing, and we had to dig into it and find it. We found a nitrous bottle, and we're going to give you a little vacation. It was a $5,000 penalty, and I was out for the rest of the year. That was in September. That was a big hit to me.
How long had the bottle been there? Because from what I read, you said that it wasn't hooked up, that it had been in the car for quite some time.
I might
and it
have
was
said that, but it was hooked up.
Okay, all right.
And I put it in the frame rail, and then left it where you turn it on. I made it where it looked like the head bolt, like a 3/4 head bolt, and that's all you saw in it was down by the frame, and it was right where there was another bolt going somewhere, and all you got to do is put the wrench on it, turn it on, and we could do that. It was only good for qualifying, it really wasn't doing anything for performance during the race, but you just turn the bolt the other way and go race and to see it later. And it had a line that went up into this was down at the frame rail, and it came up by the radiator, around the loop that was around the front of it, back down the roll bar over here, and sprayed right into the air cleaner.
Wow.
Right? And there was a solenoid that I could hit in the car with a regular switch where it said the alternator. I could flip that switch, and you get about maybe 30 seconds of nitrous oxide straight in the motor. And for example, at Rockingham, I wasn't going to make the race. It's the second day of qualifying. I said, I'm going to blow the nitrous oxide. And I go around and take the green and take the 1 and 2, and then as soon as I could do it, I hit it on the backstretch. And the car goes way out like this here, and hang on, I'm not letting up, And I just went like that and got all the way down into 3 and 4 and got fast time of the day. That's all it was for. I'm not trying to cheat anybody. I just need to get in a race,
Yeah.
And that's I didn't have the horsepower, and so you had to get some.
So you were basically just trying to get to where the front runners were at the
I just want
time.
to get in a race more
Okay,
than anything,
yeah.
And sometimes, we did all kinds of things. I made tires. I made tires by taking the right side tires and the left side. I take the left side tires and grind the number off of it. And they were about that big, like that, as to say whatever it was on it. And then you take the left side tires and you take the right side tires and put Bondo on that thing. And then when you pull the Bondo off, you have like a what do you call it?
An imprint, yeah.
Imprint, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you take that, and then you take the left side tires and get the number and put black silicone in where that was. You put this bond back on it, and then let it dry and take it off. And now the left side tires have the right side number on them. And so when you go to qualify, you could just put them right over there. And I'll tell you how much I did that is that Harry Hyde had the shop next to me over at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And whatever year it was that Lenny Pond drove for him, they won the, at the time they had like a challenge where the guy that won the most pole positions won something. I don't know what it was they did, but they won it with my tires.
Wow.
Harry Hyde made a deal with me, and I made a deal with him, and we got real tires from him. If I make a set of tires for him so that he could win the pole, and then during the race they'd shoot tires to me so that we had something to run. That's a little deal. We made no money, just
just helping each other out.
That's it. And getting competitive.
All right, so we have nitrous, we have tires. Surely there was a wealth of other things that were going on at that time.
Oh yeah, but you know the inspections weren't anything like they are today.
Right.
Well, they got everything today. You're not going to get away with anything. But I took in my car. I want to be able to seal it off in the front, where they allow that now. I mean, they can put tape all over everything and then do an erase. They didn't allow you to block it off in the front. So I took a thing you have on your in your house that you open and close it. They go like this here and they go like that. Okay, I don't know what that's called, but a regulator that you have somewhere in your house. I took two of those, put them together, put them behind the grill, that I could move it with a cable. I could open it or close it, however I wanted to, you know.
Wow.
And so we were blocked off when we qualified. Nobody else. I don't know how many other guys had something going on like that, but it was hidden where you couldn't see it. You could see it easily if you're going to take it apart and look at it, but it was, you know, it was clear in the front. You look in there, it looks good, and that's all they ever did, you know. And then so I go out and I could block off when others couldn't. We did that really to get in the race. It was not something you use all day. You know, it's just something you would use in the race to get in it, and not in the race, in the qualifying to get in the to make it in the race. However you could, and we did everything from soaking the tires. You know, I ran them all the time. I ran the wrong tires on the car just to get in the race. But then, if you get in the top 10, they confiscate your tires. They wouldn't do anything with them. They just throw them in a pile over there. But you had to start on those, the way it was in that day. So you really didn't want to qualify in the top 10. But you need to be in the top 20. And so you do whatever you got to do. I mean, that's what we did. All of us did that. All of us independents. We were camaraderie. We were all in this together, you know. And whatever we could do to get in the race, we did.